Your pH1 screen is doing something disturbing to light. Feynman's warning. And I want to begin with a simple question. What do you think you're seeing? You might say, I'm seeing light. Of course you are. That seems obvious. The screen glows. It shines. It sends colors into your eyes. But let me ask something more uncomfortable. Is that really light in the same sense that sunlight is light? Is it the same thing that bounces off trees and oceans and faces? Or is something very strange happening inside that little slab of glass in your hand? Because here is the disturbing part. Your phone screen does not simply show you light. It manufactures it, it slices it, it times it, it aims it, it turns light into a puppet. And most of us have absolutely no idea. Now, I don't mean this in a mystical way. There's no conspiracy of photons plotting behind your screen. Nature is doing what nature always does. But when you slow down and really think about it, when you really picture what's happening, it becomes almost shocking. Let's start simple. Imagine sunlight. The sun, that giant nuclear furnace, throws light in all directions. It doesn't care who you are. It doesn't care if you're looking. It doesn't aim for your eyes. It just explodes energy outward. That light travels across space, across emptiness, hits the earth, hits your face, and some of it bounces into your eyes. That's ordinary seeing. Light from the world, reflected into you. Now compare that to your phone. Your phone is not reflecting light from the world. It is generating tiny, carefully controlled bursts of light. Millions of them, arranged in a grid so fine that your eyes cannot see the individual pieces. Each little dot, each pixel, is like a microscopic lamp. But it's not just on or off. It changes color, it changes brightness, it flickers thousands of times per second. And here's the first strange thing. Your phone is not really producing white light in the way the sun does. Instead, it produces very specific colors, usually red, green, and blue, in tiny amounts, and your brain blends them into everything you see. So when you see someone's face on your screen, you are not seeing the full spectrum of sunlight reflected off their skin. You are seeing three carefully chosen colors tricking your brain into believing it sees a face. Think about that. Your phone is performing a controlled illusion on your nervous system. Now, I don't say illusion to suggest it's fake. It's real enough, but it's constructed. It's engineered. It's a simulation of light, and here's where it gets even more interesting. Light at its most basic level is not color. Color is something your brain invents. Out there in the world, there are waves, little ripples of electric and magnetic fields moving through space. They have different sizes, different frequencies, but they are not red or blue. That's your interpretation. So when your phone produces a very precise frequency of light, your brain says, that's red, or that's blue. Your phone doesn't need to reproduce the entire complexity of sunlight. It only needs to press the right buttons inside your visual system. That's astonishing. It means your phone is not recreating reality. It is hacking your biology. Now, I want you to imagine something. Imagine if aliens looked at Earth and discovered that humans could be fooled by just three colors. They might laugh. They might say, you only need three knobs to control their entire visible world. And that's essentially what we've built. Three knobs. Red, green, blue. Turn them in different combinations and you can show sunsets, oceans, tears, stars. Isn't that strange? Now here's the disturbing part that Feynman would love to poke at. Light from the sun is continuous. It flows smoothly. It contains an enormous range of wavelengths. It's messy. It's natural. But light from your phone is chopped into tiny digital decisions. On, off, brighter, dimmer. It's not flowing, it's pulsing. Many screens flicker faster than you can consciously detect. They might refresh 60 times per second, or 120, or more. But think about what that means. You are not seeing a steady image. You are seeing a rapid strobe of light pulses, and your brain smooths it into continuity. Your perception of reality is being assembled from flashes. Does that sound familiar? Because the universe itself might work a bit like that. When physicists dig deep into matter, they find that things we thought were continuous are not. Energy comes in little packets. Electrons don't smear smoothly, they jump. At the deepest levels, reality may not be a smooth river. It may be more like a flickering screen, and here you are staring into a device that mirrors that structure. Little packets of light. Tiny bursts. Structured illusion. There's something poetic about that. But let's go deeper. Sunlight contains subtle variations, tiny imperfections, a complexity that evolved alongside your eyes over millions of years. Your retina grew up under the sun. Your biology expects sunlight. But now, for hours each day, we replace the sun with a grid of artificial pulses. Does that matter? Maybe. Maybe not. But here's something to think about. Your body uses light not only to see, but to regulate time. Special cells in your eyes measure brightness and color to set your internal clock. Morning light tells your brain to wake up. Evening light tells it to slow down. Sunlight changes gradually across the day. It warms, it cools, it dims. Your phone does not care about the sunset. It can blast bright blue rich light into your eyes at midnight. And your brain, being an obedient biological machine, says, it must be daytime. And so you lie awake. That's not philosophy. That's physics and biology working together. Your phone is manipulating the timing signals that evolved under the sky. Is that disturbing? Well, it depends on how much you like sleeping. But there's a deeper layer still. When you look at the world directly, light bounces off real objects. The patterns entering your eyes are shaped by three-dimensional surfaces. Textures, shadows. When you look at your phone, the depth is fake. All the light comes from a flat surface just centimeters away. Yet your brain constructs distance, emotion, reality. You can cry watching a scene on a screen. You can feel love for a face made of pixels. That's not weakness. That's how perception works itself. Your brain never sees the world directly anyway. It only receives patterns of light and builds a model. Your phone simply feeds it patterns that mimic the world. In other words, the disturbing thing your phone is doing to light is not just technical. It is philosophical. It proves that your experience of reality is negotiable. If three colors blinking fast enough can create an entire universe inside your head, what does that say about the solidity of the real one? Now don't panic. The real world is still there. If you drop your phone, gravity wins. But perception, the felt experience, is constructed. And that's what Feynman loved. He loved the idea that when you peel back ordinary things, light, color, seeing, you find layers of strangeness. He would say, the more I look at nature, the more beautiful and mysterious it becomes. Phone is a triumph of understanding those mysteries. We learned how light interacts with atoms. We learned how materials emit precise wavelengths. We learned how to control electrons in tiny circuits thinner than a hair. And from that knowledge, we built a glowing rectangle that can show you the entire Earth. That's miraculous. But it's also unsettling, because it shows how easily reality can be simulated. Let me ask you something. If your brain can be convinced that three flashing colors are a sunset, what else might it be convinced of? How much of your certainty about the world depends on patterns of light entering two small openings in your skull? When you step outside at dusk and see the real sky, photons that left the sun 8 minutes ago are touching your retina. They have traveled 93 million miles. When you stare at your phone, those photons traveled a few centimeters, and yet your emotional reaction might be stronger to the tiny screen. Isn't that strange? Distance doesn't matter to your nervous system. Only patterns matter. And now billions of people spend hours each day bathing their eyes in engineered patterns. Again, I'm not preaching doom. I use a phone. You use a phone. They are marvelous tools. But Feynman would whisper something like this. Understand what you are looking at, because once you understand it, it becomes more wondrous and less hypnotic. You realize that the glowing screen is not magic. It is controlled light. It is disciplined light. It is light trained like a circus animal, jumping through hoops of circuitry. And that discipline allows us to communicate across continents. But it also reminds us that nature itself is not digital. The wind is not pixelated. The ocean is not refreshed 60 times per second. Your phone gives you a discretized world, chopped into frames, compressed into colors. Real world overflows those limits. And maybe that's the warning. Not that phones are evil, not that technology is bad, but that we might forget the difference between compressed light and living light, between simulated sunsets and actual sunsets, between photons born in silicon and photons born in stars. There is a difference. And if you step outside tonight and look at the sky, really look, you'll see light that has traveled across space without ever being digitized. It wasn't filtered into 3 channels. It wasn't optimized for battery life. It simply is. And maybe that's the most mind-expanding part of all this. Your phone reveals something profound about reality. If light can be engineered so precisely that it builds entire worlds inside your mind, then the universe itself must be operating on rules, deep, elegant, consistent rules, that we can understand. The same laws that guide sunlight also guide your screen. The same physics that governs stars governs pixels. There's no separation. And that's beautiful. But it also places responsibility on us. Because once you can control light, you can control attention. And once you can control attention, you shape experience. And once you shape experience, you shape reality. At least the reality inside a human mind. That is power. And power always deserves awareness. So the next time you lift your phone and see it glow, pause for a second. Ask yourself, what is light doing right now? How many tiny decisions per second are creating this image? How is my brain assembling flashes into continuity? How easily can I be convinced by patterns? And then perhaps, step outside, look at a tree, look at the sky, look at the face of someone standing in front of you. Notice the difference. Not because one is good and the other is bad, but because understanding the difference makes you free. Faye. One man once said that understanding something does not make it less beautiful. It makes it more beautiful. Knowing that your phone screen is a grid of flickering lights does not ruin the magic. It deepens it. But it also reminds you that reality is not as solid as it feels. It is constructed partly by physics, partly by biology, partly by interpretation. Your phone simply exposes that truth in miniature. It shows you that with enough understanding, light itself can be sculpted. And if light, the thing that reveals everything, can be sculpted, then what is real? That's not a question with a simple answer. But it's a wonderful question to carry with you. So tonight, when the room is dark and your screen lights up your face, remember, you are not just looking at a picture. You are watching millions of tiny pulses of electromagnetic energy, carefully arranged to persuade your nervous system. You are witnessing human beings learning to command light. That is astonishing. That is slightly disturbing. And that is profoundly beautiful. Because it means the universe is understandable, and anything that can be understood can inspire awe. And perhaps the real warning is not about phones at all. Perhaps it's this: do not let engineered light replace your curiosity about natural light. Do not let the glow in your hand become brighter than the questions in your mind. Because the greatest illumination does not come from pixels. It comes from wondering how the pixels work in the first place. And that endless curiosity about light, about nature, about reality, is something no screen can ever simulate.